The importance for protecting these ag lands is really essential in Nevada. When we're looking at our local riparian areas, there just simply aren't that many riparian lands in Nevada. We're the driest state in the nation. And over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, we've lost more than 25% of our agricultural lands. And in Douglas County, those lands are our riparian lands predominantly. Those are the lands that have our resource values. Those are the lands that are in the floodplain. Those are the important lands. And really all of this came to a head in 1997. I don't know, was anybody here during the 1990s New Year's flood, 1997 New Year's flood? I happened to be away going to school, but I returned and happened to be here that night. And I traveled from Reno, where there was significant flooding, down to Carson Valley just in time for all the roads and bridges to be closed behind me. And we woke up in the morning and this valley was essentially a lake. I stood on the bench of our ranch and kind of overlooked the property, and what used to be fields all the way to the river was just a massive lake. And so with that, with all of the damage that was incurred in Reno and the damage that was incurred locally, we realized the significance and the importance of these floodplains and the significance and the importance of protecting them. So we worked locally to create a coalition, the coalition, or Carson River Coalition, and their objective was to protect this floodplain land and the entire watershed. And in doing so, they put together a flood management plan. And in that, one of the suggested actions is, of course, to retain those lands that provide that floodplain storage. And we're to do that through conservation easements, local transfer, or purchase of development right programs, and other methods. So in implementing that, the primary goal is to protect our natural floodplains. This is the view that you see when you look outside here. This particular property is protected by a conservation easement. It allows the river to function naturally as it should. We're preserving those floodplain functions. But the ulterior motives, the ulterior objectives are we're protecting our quality of life of this community, our rural character. The reason that so many of us continue to live here, or so many of us have decided to move here. We're protecting our historic agricultural operations. This property is protected by a conservation easement. This is a really unique Swiss wood-cut and built barn. Used to have a Swiss flag on that door. You can kind of see the paint when you look at it up close. And our cultural resources, you know, the Native Americans, the Washoe people were here long before us, but they relied on these riparian floodplain lands. This is where they got their willows and used their teeth to tear them apart and to make the product by which they developed these wonderful baskets. Datso Lale is a very famous artist. Some of her baskets sell for millions of dollars. To continue to be able to preserve that cultural heritage and history, we need to protect these floodplain, these riparian areas. In doing so, we're protecting obviously our wildlife resources. And here's a bird that maybe when you're walking around today, they shoot you, and there's a nest just over across the Brockless Slough over here. It's really unique to have them nesting in Nevada year-round. They didn't used to, and we think it's because of the good job we're doing protecting the resources. But really to preserve these lands, to be successful with these conservation efforts, we need money. We need to put money where our mouths are. We can't ask that the landowners just donate their lands all the time. So we put together these public-private partnerships. We're getting funding from federal, state, and local governments, and often you have nonprofit organizations like the Nature Conservancy who are working to facilitate these programs, working both with the private landowners and with the acquiring entities. One of the most successful efforts has been a local effort by Douglas County. They've used their master plan to develop the transfer of development rights program. They use cluster provisions. And the open space sales tax, while it hasn't been successful here, it's been successful in nearby Carson City. So that's required our community leadership, our community representatives to really put these programs in place and push them forward. That began in 1996 with our master plan, the cornerstone of which really was to protect agriculture and to protect these floodplain properties. They followed that with the Open Space and Agricultural Implementation Plan. That was the first of its kind in the state of Nevada. But to get into the details a little bit, the Transfer of Development Rights program really is just what it sounds to be. It is the transfer of development rights from one property to another property. We're transferring them from the properties that we would like to protect. The agricultural areas, those are considered the receiving areas, the sending areas, and the receiving areas are where the county has decided for public planning purposes, that's where development makes sense. It's out of the floodplain. It's where we can provide services. It's where you'd like to see a development occur instead of in the floodplain lands. So they developed a bonus or incentive program. Every 20 or every 19 acres in agricultural 19-acre zoning has 9 base rights. They get an additional 7 bonus rights if they're in the floodplain. They get an additional 7 rights if they've got water rights that they're tying to the ground permanently for agricultural purposes. And then they get 20 bonus rights for every 100 acres. So the larger the property, the more bonuses they get. On average, we end up protecting through this program about 1 acre for every house that's developed. You get the development where we want it, but we're protecting the land that has these resources as well. It's really an elegant solution that has created a local market and has enabled us to, through development, protect what is so important for us, so near and dear to us. The program really was only successful between 2002 and 2009. That's because it's a mitigation type program. The TDR program relies on development. So when we saw the market soften and disappear, we no longer had that mitigation program. So it's similar, we've looked at other opportunities to generate funding. As I said, Douglas County had tried previously to pass an open space sales tax, I believe, at least twice. They failed each time, but nearby in Carson City, they were successful. In 1996, they passed their quality of life tax initiative. It was voter approved by 54% of the voters. It takes 1/4% of their sales tax and dedicates it 40% to open space, 40% to parks and trails, 20% to maintenance of those parks. What is really unique about it is that you're able to then use those local funds to leverage other state and federal funding. So where they have generated about $10 million since it was implemented in 1996, they've been able to leverage another $8 million. Had Douglas County passed its in 2002, we would have generated about $19.6 million, which would have done a significant amount to protect some of the ranches we're trying to conserve locally. We probably would have been able to leverage it similar to this and get another 10 million. And so you look at that, and that's important because we're protecting our heritage. We're protecting the health and safety of our own citizens. We've got new FEMA floodplain maps where people are now paying flood insurance on properties that are in the floodplain. If we could do more to protect those properties, they wouldn't be paying the flood insurance that they are. We would be protecting them into the future. You know, they've spent, is it getting close to $1 billion in the Washoe County trying to restore the Truckee River?
Well, at last estimate, it was 1.6 billion, but I don't know how much they've spent.
Yeah. So 1.6 billion to restore their floodplains. We can do that for pennies on the dollar here. We're saving ourselves money in the future, but we're preserving our culture and our heritage and our agriculturally productive lands. So through their program, Carson City's been able to protect about 3,300 acres or so. And another opportunity has been through the Question 1 program. This again was another voter-approved bond initiative that applied statewide rather than just in any particular county. But its purpose was similar, to protect our water quality, our open spaces, our lakes, our rivers, our wetlands, our wetland habitat. And Carson City was able to leverage its funding to make significant use of the statewide conservation grant program. There was about 200 million initially, 10 million specifically for our watershed, but within several counties. 65 million of it had to be leveraged, so Douglas County was never able to make great access into this program because we didn't have the required matching funds. But working with the Nature Conservancy and a private landowner, Mr. Don Bentley, we were in Douglas County able to get the protection of the Bentley-Kerman Field Ranch. And this was a great opportunity to show how ranching, recreation, and conservation could all work together in that public-private nonprofit partnership. But again, that was contingent upon a bond program. With the troubled economy, we haven't had the continued sales of bonds, so we're continually looking for other tools. So we've looked back at federal legislation and that history, and Nevada, unlike many other counties in the country, is largely publicly owned. More than 80%, close to 90%, depending on how you do your math. But the result is you've got communities that sometimes are looking to expand and they're hemmed in by public lands. So we've had federal land bills, beginning with the Mesquite Land Bill in the 1970s, where they had a designated area that could be privatized so that that community could continue to expand. But they weren't very forward-thinking. Since then, we've had continued federal legislation, but rather than just sell those lands or privatize them, we've taken and assured that they would be sold and those dollars would go into specific mitigation accounts. So in 1984, so the Santini-Burton Act designated a disposal area in southern Nevada, the proceeds of which had to be used specifically within the Tahoe Basin. And through the Santini-Burton Act, we've been able to protect thousands and thousands and thousands of acres on both the Nevada and the California side of Lake Tahoe. And so in 1998, Senator Bryan passed, with Senator Reed, the Southern Nevada Public Land Management Act. Following on the heels of the Santini-Burton Act, it again designated a disposal area in southern Nevada, but instead of saying that those proceeds would specifically go to Tahoe, they were to be used within the entire state of Nevada. It would be a competitive ranking process to protect lands by acquiring them in fee or by acquiring conservation easements on those properties. Since then, we've had a number of other county federal land bills go through, the most important of which is one that was recently introduced, the Douglas County Conservation Bill. That's a local bill. Following on the heels of the Snifflemus success, we want to do something similar. We are designating lands within Douglas County that are difficult to manage properties, federally owned lands that will, a few of them, be sold for commercial development so that we can protect these properties. We went through a local public process that honestly took 3 to 4 years. We met with hundreds of stakeholders over and over and over, and it ended up being a very comprehensive bill. In addition to providing funding for the acquisition of conservation easements, it will designate an approximately 13,000 acre wilderness area in the Pine Mountains. It will transfer certain lands from the federal government to the Washoe tribe that are culturally important lands for them. It will transfer other properties to Douglas County for water resource infrastructure purposes. And the greatest example is this 24-acre piece. It's surrounded by Best Buy, Target, Highway 395. It's Forest Service property, but it doesn't have those recreational resources that you expect. It doesn't have those natural resources that you expect. This is the best example of a commercial infill development. We should allow commercial development to occur here where there's a synergy between the commercial development rather than forcing it to occur somewhere else in the county. It's already developed around it, and it's difficult to manage. The Forest Service isn't able to manage this property well because they're an in-holding surrounded by commercial development. It's a dumping ground, it's got significant weed issues, so this isn't what we typically view as a U.S. Forest Service piece. But we could sell it and use the proceeds to protect the heart and the soul of our community, those agricultural lands that do have real natural resources, that do provide floodplain functions and things that are important for our community. In addition to being able to protect conservation easements, we would receive these parcels through the Recreation and Public Purposes Act. Douglas County would then be able to develop them as flood mitigation basins through small movement of earth, small earthen dams and things like that, and directing waterways. We could protect the downstream communities. When you've got those rare 100-year flood events, we would capture those waters, safely store them, and then safely release them into the community so that you don't have the destruction like we recently saw in Boulder, Colorado, a place that typically hasn't had that type of flooding. It's not usual, but that exact same thing has happened and could happen here again. And so Douglas County's ability to put those mitigation basins is incredibly important for protecting our watershed. And in the 99.9% of the time that it's not being used for flood protection purposes, it's open space land, and it continues to provide those natural resource benefits and those recreational resources. Another thing that the Douglas County bill would be doing was it would amend the Southern Nevada Public Land Management Act so that Douglas County would have access to funding for parks, trails, and natural areas. We've done a great job locally through the Carson Valley Trails Association and other organizations putting together the network of trails we have, but we could use a little bit more access to funding. So conservation and public recreational resources often go hand in hand. We would be able to access those funds in the Southern Nevada account. The bill for Douglas County was recently introduced in about June 28th of this year. It's Senate Bill, I think, 1263. And we're looking forward to future successes of conservation. Directly adjacent to this property that is protected by a conservation easement through the Southern Nevada Act, just to the west of us here, we have Ranch Number 1, the first land claim in the state of Nevada. Colonel John Reese rode into Genoa with Stephen Kinsey and others, and Ranch Number 1 is about the 7th document we have in Nevada history. It was part of the Utah territory at the time, but specifically called up this 320 acres, and that is the first claim in Nevada, largely undeveloped today, although that portion that is in the town of Genoa was developed. This would be able to protect that cultural heritage, that historic piece of property, and this family last Friday signed a willing acceptance offer. We're going to take a series of months to finish the process, but that property will soon be protected. And there are an additional 20,000 acres or so of landowners who are still willing to participate in this conservation program if we can successfully obtain the money and put together the program funding for the continuation of this effort. And so, if you've got any questions, I blew through that very quickly because I understand you've been sitting here for quite a while today. It would normally take longer, but if you've got questions, I would love to answer them.
So how long do you think, I mean, it's in the Senate, the bill is, with all of the other stuff that's going on in Washington right now, does it have a chance to get through, or is it going to get hung up?
Well, it's already hung up, as are all federal land bills almost. The last bill that we had passed was, I believe, in 2009 when we had an omnibus package. Carson City had a federal land bill that went through at that time. I think it was the Carson City Vitality Act that became part of this omnibus package. Since then, because of this polarization, we have had disagreements on a lot of our federal land issues, and they have just been hung up in the committees. So we're expecting that sometime soon they're all going to move forward with another omnibus package, but there are a lot more important issues that we're dealing with right now. So our hope is that by the end of this Congress, likely in a lame duck session, we'll get a land bill through. In the meantime, it's important that we got it introduced. We got marked up and it's going to committee so we can get it through that process. And then we need to also get it introduced in the House. The House is going to have issues with what we're doing with our funding. We're allocating it for a specific purpose. It's not going into the general treasury account. Therefore, they view it as an earmark. And so there are issues with that we're going to have to resolve and work around. But we've got tremendous support of the Nevada delegation on both sides of the aisle. It was introduced in the Senate by both Harry Reid and by Dean Heller. And Congressman Amedee has expressed a lot of support for it. And he's our representative in our district. But we've also got support of the other members of Congress, the other representatives in the other Nevada districts. So it's great that we're all working together. And when the time is right, we think we're going to be successful. When that time is, that's definitely the uncertainty.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot. Well, so you're trying to leverage federal funds to pay for easements, right? Is that kind of the bottom line?
This program, this act itself, it's the sales of those federally owned lands, those difficult.
So you're like trading, right?
It's a trade, it's a
It's a
mitigation
trade.
program. It
Okay.
allows the sale of certain federally owned properties, and it mitigates that sale by the acquisition of easements on these other private properties.
Okay.
It would also allow the acquisition in fee of certain privately owned lands as well.
Interesting, yeah. It's too bad you gotta deal with politicians.
Well, we need
I mean, it
them,
makes
but
a lot,
it's
but it
difficult.
just makes a lot, no, I know, but it just makes a lot of sense.
Our politicians have been great.
Right.
It's the other
It's
politicians.
the
that-
dynamics right above the sea level, but I'm sure that's true for lots of things, but it makes a lot of sense.
Good questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Dominic.
Thank
Appreciate it.
This song's called Steady Footsteps. I tread steady footsteps along the ridge, and I feel the midsummer breeze on my skin, covering me. And all the places that I've seen, all the faces in my dreams, come back to me, and I release. Oh, now each breath I take is steady and fast. Each step I make is stronger than the last time. Cutting all connection to the past now. I'm cutting all connection to the past. And the sun, she may be long gone from my side, but I will wait for her at the edge of time, the edge of time. Oh, each breath I take is steady and fast. Each step I make is stronger than the last time. Cutting all connection to the past now. I'm cutting all connection to the past, yeah. To the past, yeah. To the past. Oh, each breath I take is steady and fast. Each step I make is stronger than the last time. Cutting all connection to the past now. I'm cutting all connection to the past. To the past. To the past. song's called In This World. Where do we go? Nobody knows. I can't answer for myself. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. We have control over the moment. We can choose to take hold of it, to see the beauty, see the whole of it. I know I can show them what I believe. I just have to be the change that I want to see in this world, in this world. Oh, in this world. What can we do? I'm just as you are, though the answer is not far from our own skin. And as I am swallowed by the sea, I can know that all I could ever be, I was in this world. Oh, in this world, in this world, in this world. Where do we go? I do not know. Only time will tell. Time will tell. Only time will tell. I can find out when I'm in my own life. Who am I can find out when I'm in my own life. My own life. This song's called Drifting West. Help me to find my way back from sea. I've been led astray. Where are the lights that I once used to guide myself back home to you? I wish I knew. Though the clouds are overhead, and I am steadily drifting west, steadily drifting. Steadily drifting west. The speck in the sky may act as a guide if I wish to paddle ashore. But in the end, the blowing wind is what dictates my course. East leads you west, north leads south. But they meet in the middle, just under the clouds. Where the tide is heavy and the gusts are many, the sun, she only sometimes comes around. But in the night, the moon burns more bright, and the most gentle there is calm on the water, peace in the air, though anything can change. From here to there, across this vast blue sea. But for now, I am steadily drifting west, drifting west. song's called Awake. No one's knocking at the door. It's the sound of the rain pour. Gusts of wind shaking the trees, rustling the fallen leaves. So don't leave when it's cold outside. We can stay here side by side. Oh no. Leaky rafter, puddled floor. The fire crackles, keeps us warm. Just a jacket between us two. But I am happy here with you. How would you do, darling, without me? Would you do fine? Would you do fine? All night. Can throw away, my dear. You can stay away. Why can't I stay here for the rest of my days, the rest of my days? Why can't I stay here for the rest of my days, the rest of my days? For the rest of my days, for the rest of my days. I'm going. I'm awake now. Tell me where I'm going. Where I'm going. You're all grown now. Tell me you're not going. 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 go.
Hi, this song's called Lost With You.
Rest your weary eyes, my dear. I will be here at your side. Arms wrapped around you tight. Listen to the waves against the sand, the winds blowing against us. Take my hand. There's so much that we can have. There's so much that we can have. I have no fear, do you, my dear? Look at me with those eyes. I want to know what it's like to be lost with you, lost with you. Look at me with those eyes. I want to know what it's like to be lost with you, lost with you.
Lake Tahoe, the jewel of the Sierra, is the most beautiful place in the world. Nature's wonderland, surrounded by majestic mountains above and beautiful sapphire blue waters below that splash upon the 72 miles of shoreline at a depth of 1,645 feet. Waterfalls are plentiful with their dramatic beauty as they splash against the granite rocks below. 63 different streams flow into the lake. Tahoe is an excellent destination for a variety of visitors. There's something for everyone. Nature's playground, with trails that take you deep into our gorgeous forests and pristine alpine lakes surrounded by meadows with wildflowers. Hiking and exploring nature's wonderland is an experience you'll never forget. The peaceful energy that flows through your body when you walk in the forest and the healing sights and sounds of nature refresh your mind and soul. Come with us on an adventure to treasure. Pick your favorite hike. Leah will show you what you will need to make your hiking adventure more pleasurable. You'll need a backpack, wilderness permits when required, a compass, this one has a whistle, a map of the area, mosquito repellent is a must, sunscreen, good hiking boots and socks, You'll have to take our word for those. A first aid kit, lots of water. You can never carry too much water. A camera. This is Tahoe after all, and there will be lots of pictures you won't want to miss. Snacks in your picnic lunch, if you're planning on having one, because I'm not sharing mine. A fishing pole and tackle, if you're planning on catching fish for dinner. A rain poncho is always a good idea. The weather can change rapidly in the Sierra, and you can leave your cell phone at home. Just kidding, they can be helpful in times of emergencies. The hike to Fallen Leaf Lake is a perfect hike for anyone. You walk along Taylor Creek, where the kokanee salmon spawn in the fall, through meadows lined with aspens singing in the wind, dazzling you with their changing colors in the fall, fields of wildflowers and views of Mount Talac. Then the splendor of Fallen Leaf Lake surrounded by the majestic mountains, sometimes capped with snow that sits atop their peaks like crowns. To get there, travel approximately 3 miles from the Y on Highway 89 North. You turn left on Cathedral Road just past the Taylor Creek Bridge. Travel about a half mile up the road to a turnout on the left. Park in this dirt pullout and start your hike at the fence. Just a few yards straight ahead, you come to this magnificent spot at Taylor Creek. The dog really enjoys the swim. Did you see that fish jump? The kokanee salmon spawn here every fall. It's quite a sight to see the water turn red with salmon. The fall colors are fantastic with all the aspens. Therefore, this is a must hike in the fall. Here's proof that there are beavers here, and recently it seems. Are they trying to alter the course of Taylor Creek? Just like they say, busy as a beaver. The trail splits here. You can go to your right and continue through the beautiful meadow, or veer to the left and the trail will take you alongside Taylor Creek. These options work out great because you can make a loop and enjoy both trails. We will go through the meadow and come back along the creek. The meadow is abundant with wildflowers and aspen trees, and you have these fantastic views of Mount Talac. The Indians say that when all the snow melts in the cross on Mount Talac, it'll be 3 weeks until the first snowfall. Now once we go down this hill, we're back at Taylor Creek. As you can see, you can't keep the Labradors out of the water. As soon as Dallas is finished with her swim, we start back on the trail. The trail to the right will take you on a longer hike to Sawmill Cove, where you can enjoy a picnic. If you go to your left, you will cross the bridge. Look, there's someone enjoying the clear blue waters of Fallen Leaf Lake. We continue down the trail for a short distance until we reach the beach. Take your choice. There are many different things to enjoy at Fallen Leaf Lake. You can always spot a fishing boat or water skiers on the lake. This is a great place to spend an afternoon, have a picnic, or take a refreshing swim in the lake. The surroundings are pleasant to the eye, with Mount Talac standing there so strong, beckoning you to come climb me, experience my unbelievable views. The Valhalla Estates hike is easily accessible to anyone. This is a marvelous hike filled with Tahoe's early 1900s history. Strolling through the lovely grounds at the estates with views of Lake Tahoe framed by the sandy beaches that beckon you to come play, sit, relax, enjoy. To get there, travel approximately 3 miles from the Y on Highway 89. Turn right at the entrance to the historic site sign. Continue on to the parking lot. This hike is for everyone, even the physically challenged. The podiums are filled with interesting history about the area. The trails lead you to the wonderful beaches where you can enjoy the water like Dallas, or just stroll along the shore of beautiful Lake Tahoe. The Lake of the Sky Trail runs adjacent to the beach. Boating is always a favorite on the lake. Over at Camp Richardson Resort, you can rent kayaks, paddle boats, and other items. The entrance to the estates is traveled in many different ways, as you can see. This first estate is the Baldwin Estate, and right next to it are the wildflower gardens that have been restored. A stroll through the gardens gives you a closer look at the flowers. Just beyond the gate is the pond area at the Pope Estate. Rustic benches and the gazebo at one end make this area storybook gorgeous. Go ahead, toss a coin in the pond, make a wish. The Pope Estate and this wonderful view of Lake Tahoe make for a perfect paradise. The honeymoon cottage plays so perfectly in this setting. Who would not have wanted to stay here? The last estate is the Heller, or more commonly known as Valhalla Estate, set so perfectly with the grounds framing the beauty. Many events take place here in the summer. Can you just imagine your checkered tablecloth on the grass and your picnic basket setting right here? In the early 1900s, this was definitely the place to be. What a perfect way to enjoy a summer afternoon. The Rainbow Trail is a marvelous hike where you can stroll around and soak in all the beauty while getting nature's education from all the informative podiums along the trail. This trail is also accessible by wheelchair and takes you to the profile chamber where you can observe the fish in their natural environment. I would recommend this outing for anyone and everyone. To get there, travel 3 miles on Highway 89 from the Y until you see a visitor center sign on your right. Turn right and enter the parking lot. The center offers an abundance of information. You can also get your overnight pass for backpacking at the center. Several different trails start from here. The Rainbow Trail starts just beyond the visitor center. Just a short distance down the trail and we come to the lookout platform. The views of the meadow and the lake with the mountains framing nature's picture are just gorgeous. This meadow is a nesting area for our wild bird life. Keep your eyes peeled and you just don't know what you might see. Down at the bottom of this hill, the trail meanders through some beautiful aspen groves. Michelle and Morgan take a minute to sit and enjoy nature. All along the trail are these informative podiums. Notice the bald eagle nesting sign. If we're lucky, we might see one, so keep your eyes open. The trail takes you to Taylor Creek, where the kokanee salmon spawn every fall. Look at the names carved on these aspen trees. Some date way back. As you can see, this is a very popular trail. As we mentioned earlier, it is accessible to anyone, even the handicapped. At the bridge, the colorful podiums offer information about the wildlife. Just beyond the bridge is the highlight of our adventure, the profile chamber. Inside, you can observe the fish in their own environment. The walls are beautifully painted, with scenes of the area in all of the different seasons. Leaving the chamber and taking the trail to the right along the bike path, we can go over and view Taylor Creek from the bridge. On our way back, we stop at the last podium that tells us about Mount Talac, that stands at an elevation of 9,735 feet and beckons us to conquer her. And conquer her we will, but you'll have to wait for that terrific hike. These handicap facilities at the Carson River in Hope Valley are so special we could not wait to share them with you. To get there, take Highway 89 at Myers to Pickett's Junction in Hope Valley. At the stop sign, turn right on Highway 88, travel a few hundred feet, and turn into the parking lot on your right. This is all handicap accessible with the most wonderful fishing platforms. I don't know what genius thought this plan up, but I'm impressed with these facilities. We start at the parking lot. The trail is less than a half-mile long and is paved all the way down to the river. Hope Valley is breathtaking with the majestic mountains encircling it. Soon we see a sign that will lead us to the fishing platforms. Make a left at the second sign and continue down to the river. Just ahead are 2 fishing platforms that allow anyone access to the river. What a wonderful idea. The fall colors in Hope Valley are a delight to the camera's eye, so if you're in the area in the fall, this is a must. Michaela and Morgan relax and enjoy nature's beauty. Michelle tries her luck on the first platform. Even if you don't catch a fish, you can't beat the scenery. Bring a picnic and just enjoy the marvelous views from Hope Valley and the Carson River. The hike to Eagle Lake is only 1 mile, but offers magnificent rewards. You have spectacular views of the falls and wonderful, breathtaking vistas of Emerald Bay and Lake Tahoe. This is definitely a snapshot favorite, so don't forget your camera. To get there, travel approximately 8 miles from the Y on Highway 89. The parking lot is on your left. You have to pay here, so get your wallet out. You will have to fill out a permit and carry it with you, because this is an entrance to Desolation Wilderness. Let's head for the falls. Morgan points out a trail marker. Either way will take you to the falls. Stop and enjoy the view of the falls from this bench like Michelle and Morgan are doing. We continue on the trail, stopping at the bridge to admire the full splendor of Eagle Falls. It's just magnificent the way the colors change as the water travels downstream. Let's cross the bridge and be on our way. We have an adventure waiting for us. The trail to Eagle Lake becomes rocky and steep for a while, but it is well worth the effort. Here's the Desolation Wilderness sign to remind us to have our permit filled out and displayed. About halfway to the lake, you come to these wide-open, giant granite slabs. This is a great spot to stop and take advantage of the views. Pictures are a must. This is one of the most photographed places in the world, and you can sure see why. This view of Emerald Bay is priceless. These sheer mountain ranges that surround us are breathtaking with that beautiful blue sky as a backdrop. Here's the trail marker for Velma Lakes to your left or Eagle Lakes to your right. This trail is truly spiritual as you hike beneath the sheer mountain range. Here it is, our reward just ahead, Eagle Lake. So pristine and brilliant. Dallas and Dakota think so too. Everyone seems to be enjoying a perfect summer day at Eagle Lake.